Christian Metal Group. We're here with Dave Kruse for the Covenant Metal Show and Jay Goodwin, Joel. Joel, introduce yourself, brother.
All right. Well, I am one of the moderators for Christian Metal Group, and I've been in the group since almost the beginning, but I became a mod I think sometime in 2020, and it's really cool. I play music for a living and all styles. Metal is my passion though, so even though I don't get to do that to pay the bills, the money I do get from music I use to do metal.
There you go. And I'm Jimmy Searles. I'm one of the admins. My friend actually started this group a little over 10 years ago, and he's no longer on Facebook. But here we are. We have an awesome ministry. I love metal. I listen to about anything except for country.
Nah.
I will put on a Johnny Cash record every now and then. Awesome. And Dave, just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, real quick.
Well, my name is Dave, spelled backwards. It's Evad. My favorite color is clear. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I've always had an interest in radio and never really did much with it, and around the end of 2014, the Lord kept putting it on my heart, to do a radio show. And I was just kind of like, I don't know. And I kept praying about it. And I was like, Lord, if you want me to do this, I'll do it, but I need a really cool name, just something that stands out. And I was praying more and more about it. And the word covenant kept coming to me. So one day I just blurted it out. I was like, Covenant Metal Show. And I'm like, hey, that sounds pretty cool. It's got a ring to it, And I met up with a buddy of mine because I didn't know anything about like recording, doing a radio show. I didn't know squat. And so he helped me, get started and taught me some stuff. And I would record all my speaking parts. And then I'd go and sit over at his big studio desk and everything and watch what he was doing and, piecing everything together, cleaning up the audio. And I just picked up on it real quick. And eventually I just ended up doing everything myself. I was my own producer,
That's awesome.
recording
so you're really
Yeah.
self-taught.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man.
And I started Covenant Metal Show January of 2015. And here we are. This January will be 8 years. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're really gaining some traction. That's awesome. Well, let's back up a little bit. So tell me, when did you first become a believer?
Oh man, this is a great story. It was the fall of 2001, and it almost did not happen. I had some friends of mine. It was strange because the Lord was starting to work in me at least 2 weeks before I came to him. I just didn't know it at the time. And without going into a long drawn out thing, I just woke up one morning and I was like, I don't want to party anymore. I don't want to sleep around with all these women anymore. I don't want to get high or drunk anymore. I'm done. I don't want to do any of this anymore.
Amazing.
And that was it. And I quit all of that stuff cold turkey and had no issues, and at that same time I had some friends of mine who they kept inviting me to come to church with them. Like, Dave, come to church. And I just kept putting it off. I'm like, nah. It's like, man, I don't want to go to church. It's not my thing. I'm not into it. And so they kept asking me. They were relentless, man. And I'm glad now that they were. And so finally I broke down and I told them, I said, look, if I go to church with you guys, will you get off my back about it and leave me alone? Yeah, man. Just, come and check it out. I was like, all right, cool. And I didn't have a car at the time, so they had to pick me up. And so I went to church. And long story short, I met my wife at church this very same day.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very special day for me because very special day for me. It's weird too, man. I wasn't looking for a girlfriend. She wasn't looking for a boyfriend. You know, I had just got out of, you know, my last girlfriend had just broke up with me like a month before or something like that, and she got out of a like a 3-year relationship with a guy. But and so we went into the young adult Bible study, and uh my wife, she was in there like an usher, sitting people at the tables and whatnot. She came and sat at the table with me and my friends, and we just started talking. And it was really weird, man, because for the first time in my life, I was able to actually see a woman's true beauty. I mean, I was able to just look at her and not lustfully, you know, because the old Dave would have been like, oh yeah, you know, I want that, whatever, you know. But no, it wasn't like that. It was I just was like, I like her. I was drawn to her personality. And uh so after Bible study, I told her, I said, well, it was very nice meeting you, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and take off. And she's like, no, 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 you got to come to service, man, come to service. And I'm like, all right, fine. So we get in there, and it was a huge sanctuary, man. And she's like, sit by me. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'll sit by you.
Oh.
And to this day, I wish that I knew and could remember what the sermon was about. But all I know is it really touched me, man. I mean, like deep to the core. And next thing I know, I'm sitting there taking a deep, hard look at my life, the things I did, the stuff I went through, and you know, pain that I caused other people. And I started bawling my brains out, man. I was just crying and crying. And at the end of the sermon, the pastor invited people up to the altar to give their life to Christ. And I just knew in my heart, I'm like, I got to do this. I need Jesus, you know. And I knew I was empty inside, and that I needed to fill that emptiness with Jesus. So I went down and just completely, totally just gave my life to Christ. Then after church, uh, again, you know, I told her, I said, hey, it was nice to meet you. You know, I'm going to take off. No, 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 no. A bunch of us were going out for lunch. You got to come with us. So I'm like, okay. So we go out to lunch, you know, and we're just hanging out and stuff. And it's so weird because knowing my wife like I do, this was totally a God thing, because that is unlike her, unlike her. So we're hanging out at lunch, you know, and my friends are with us. And like I said, they were my ride. After a while, they're like, hey, Dave, we're going to leave. So I told her, I said, hey, I got to go. You know, my friends, they're my ride. I gotta leave with them. And she's like, I'll give you a ride home. And that is totally unlike her. And it's like, I'm sitting there thinking, you just met me, you know, like, you don't even know where I live. Like, I lived way, way far on the west part of town, you know. And but yeah, I stayed. She gave me a ride home. We exchanged phone numbers, you know, and I called her later that night. And it's so weird. We were just gonna be friends, and well, that lasted a week. A week later, I asked her to be my girlfriend, and here we are, like over 21 years later, man. So
It's
yeah.
almost like God has a plan or something, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
Hey,
Awesome.
man. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
awesome. Well, cool. So we talked about like your introduction to Christianity, which is
Yeah.
awesome. So of course, we're talking about Christian metal. So what was your introduction into metal? And this is a two-parter. So introduction into metal, and also who was your favorite band growing up, whether it be metal or something else.
Okay. I didn't really get into metal until I was about 15 years old.
Okay.
Before that, I just listened to whatever was, you know, on MTV, whatever was on, you know, top 40 on the radio. Because I grew up in the 80s, you know, so it was Duran Duran and Thompson Twins, U2, Billy Idol, stuff like that. And the first band that I really got into when I started getting into rock music was Def Leppard. And yep, when I was 15 years old, Hysteria came out, and I just loved that thing. And I remember it was funny because no, I didn't grow up in a Christian home or anything like that, but still, my mom was really leery about what kind of music I was allowed to listen to. So I told her I wanted, you know, Def Leppard's Hysteria. So she bought it for me on tape cassette. And when she gave it to me, she said, "They better not be a satanic band." And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because she was talking about, the cover has the screaming faces.
Yeah.
And I started laughing too. And she's like, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "Mom, why don't you just come into my room with me? I'll put the tape in my little boom box and you'll see for yourself." And so she ended up falling in love with Def Leppard too. She would
Oh,
come into my
wow.
room sometimes. She's like, "I want to hear Love Bites," and she'd play it like 7, 8 times.
Wow.
But so I started out with Def Leppard, and then I gradually got into heavier stuff like Scorpions and Motley Crue. They were actually my very first concert was Motley Crue when I
Okay.
was 16. And I don't know, by the time I was 19, I was into the heavier stuff, like much heavier stuff like Megadeth, Slayer, Metallica, um, Pantera, all that kind of stuff. And just kind of stuck with that. And then, the 90s came and I was huge into Creed and Godsmack and
Oh, wow.
Disturbed when those guys first came out. So yeah, stuff like that. Um, I had known a little bit about Christian metal because even back in the day, like when I started getting into rock music when I was 15, um, I did get into Striper,
Mm-hmm.
but back then for me, I treated Striper like any other band. I knew that they were Christian and they sing about God, but it was like I really wasn't kind of getting the message. To me, it was like I put Striper right there with Def Leppard and Kiss or something. And I had the "To Hell with the Devil" poster on my wall, the one with the band members on it. I had that on my wall, and excuse me, but I didn't really get into seriously get into Christian metal until I'd say 2005, like 4 years after I became a Christian. I was at a you know I was at one of those record stores where they had oh, I see that too. I was at a record store and where they had the used tapes and record CDs and all that, and they had these little cassette players and where you could listen to the music before you buy it. And I'm like, okay, cool, right on. And I was looking for Christian metal, and they actually had a section for Christian rock and metal, even used stuff. So I found Mortification. I believe
Oh,
it
wow.
was I believe it was Scrolls.
Mhm.
So I bought that. I bought Tourniquets, Psychosurgery, and Pathogenic Ocular Dissonance. And then I bought Miracle Mile from Guardian, and I put all those, and I was listening to those, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I've been missing out, man. And so that was my introduction, basically. And I'd say the first band that I really truly got into when I started getting into the Christian metal, two bands I'd say actually around the same time. It was Divine Fire and Theocracy. When
Oh,
Theocracy, they just put out their first album in 2005,
yep.
and it was just Matt Smith. He didn't have a full band,
Did
and
everything. Yeah.
yeah, I was impressed. I'm like listening to him, like this guy did all of this.
I finally got to see them a couple months ago. They played a show before they went to Europe to tour, and
Wow.
he's only maybe 3 hours from me. He's in
Oh,
Georgia.
nice.
Yeah.
They're uh they're playing at Immortal Fest next summer in July in Ohio, and
Yep.
oh yeah, I'm going.
Oh yeah.
I'm going. I've been wanting to see Theocracy forever, man.
That's cool, man. It's really cool.
Awesome. So coming up over the years, what are some of your top, I don't know, two or three concerts that you remember that you just really loved?
Oh man. Uh I saw Def Leppard in '93. That's the one and only time I ever saw them. That was a great concert. My second concert stands out because my mom went with me and
Mm,
she's no longer around, but she took me to the county fair and we went into the Coliseum and saw Alice Cooper on the Trash Tour.
nice.
Oh man, that was awesome. Yes, it was so awesome. Um, gosh, yeah, there's been a lot. I'd have to say Also, the first time I saw Striper in 2012, that was pretty cool because a friend of mine showed up, surprised me with a VIP pass, and I got to meet the guys and hang out backstage with them. So that
Oh,
was,
that's
yeah,
rad.
that was pretty cool. I find all that out after I paid $100 for a meet and greet. I'm
Oh
like,
no.
dude, yeah, I was like, man, you should have told me. I'm like, I wish you would have told. Yeah, it was like, man, but it is what it is. Um, but yeah, man, there's been some good concerts. I went to the very first Gigantour, which is
Yeah.
put on by Megadeth,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
that was when I lived in Albuquerque, and Scott and Robert Gutierrez were there, and man, it was an all-day thing, and saw a lot of great bands. I believe, of course, the headliners were Megadeth and Dream Theater. So that
Oh
was,
yeah.
oh yeah, so that was awesome. And they had Fear Factory and Nevermore was there too. So it was
Yep.
pretty cool, man. Yeah.
Sounds like a great show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wish I'd seen that one. I have the CD. That's all I have. I don't have. I saw the second Gigantor though. That was great. So,
Yeah, I saw it. I saw Gigantor again in 2012, but it wasn't as good.
Yeah, I'm
It was,
sure.
yeah, it was just four bands. It was inside this like small theater type place, and I don't know, for whatever reason, they played two or three songs, and Dave Mustaine would go off stage for a while. Then he'd come back, they do two or three more songs, and he'd go off stage, and I'm like, what's going on? But Motorhead was there, and that's the one and only time I ever got to see Motorhead, so that was cool.
Wow,
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
amazing. Well, I'll tell you, Christian metal or metal overall,
mm-hmm.
Just by default is full of controversy.
Yeah,
And I think Christian metal, of course, has its own controversies, whether it be from secular audiences or even Christian audiences, which is always interesting to me. So I'm interested in backlash. So have you gotten any backlash from like Christians, like like for example in the Christian metal industry or just Christians overall? And then we can talk about secular backlash also.
okay. No, surprisingly, I I've had nothing but support from friends,
Praise God.
support from people in bands. They totally support what I'm doing, and they even encourage me because there's been many times where I get very discouraged. I think no, it's like I'll post something on Facebook, about the show or whatever, and it's almost like nobody sees it, nobody responds to it. So I start thinking, in the end, I know it's the enemy trying to beat me down and stuff, like, oh man, you might as well give it up. You suck, Dave. Nobody wants to listen to your show and whatnot. And but my friends, they always come through and encourage me, and they're like, Dave, we love what you're doing, man. And I've had people come up and treat me like I'm some kind of celebrity, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, I put the kibosh on that right away, and I'm like, I'm just a regular guy. I'm just a dude who loves Christian metal, and I love Jesus. That's it. I'm nobody, and I point
Awesome.
people straight up. I say all the glory goes to God, man, because
Yeah,
honestly, without him, I wouldn't be doing what I do,
I know that's right.
That's
and
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, and the only thing is, I guess, that would be close to any backlash is a long while back, I had posted just a couple of times asking if anybody wanted to donate to the show, to help it out and stuff. And this one guy decided to be a jerk. He's like, how dare you ask for money? You're always posting how you and your wife are going on vacations and stuff. And here you are asking for money. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, you know what? If this is how it's going to be, I'm not even going to ask. And I don't. I tried it. And other than a few close friends, nobody donated. So it was like, all right, well, it is what it is. I mean, I don't care about money. It's not that at all. It was just an idea. That was it, and decided not to go with it again.
Very
So,
interesting.
All right. So, Dave, here's a good question for you. Will there ever be another Christian metal video show like we
yeah,
used to have in the 90s and 2000s?
yeah,
You think
I
so?
believe. Yeah, I actually, I tried doing that, but I think once I move and get my studio set up and get some better equipment, then I want to transition from radio to strictly live video show,
Oh
live,
wow, nice.
because I'll have a studio and it'll be set up where I can have bands come and perform live and be interviewed live. And so I'm really excited about that. And just hopefully, because it's weird, man. Like I didn't really see anybody else doing that. I see videos of interviews all over on YouTube, and that's awesome. It really is. And there's other Christian metal radio shows, and that's great. We need to keep those coming too, to support the bands. But I've been doing radio for almost 8 years now, and I didn't plan on ever doing it forever. So, hopefully I can transition from radio just over to video.
That's awesome. I
Mhm.
remember I don't know which ones you remember, Jay, but I remember Still Roots was one of them. They had some good videos.
Z-Rock.
D-Rock, there was another one. Yeah. And I think they've all, I don't know that any of them are still around.
Unfortunately.
Awesome. Well, Dave's gonna rescue us. He's gonna bring it back.
Hey, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember
Amen.
those Z-Rock, man. Those Z-Rock videos, just during the time when I was like really discovering stuff, it had to been like the mid '90s, and just seeing videos about all those people like Vengeance and Circle of Dust, it just made my Saturday nights, man, for sure. Made my Saturday nights. Okay, so I guess I'm up for the next question. So, just speaking of like that era, the '90s, of course, was a time when physical product was in. The only way that you really listened to music was through physical product, buying CDs, buying vinyl. Now people are buying vinyl stuff, a lot more, which is great. But CDs, tapes, it's sometimes a thing of the past. Thankfully, in the metal underground, of course, a lot of people still do manufacture and buy CDs. But of course, a lot of people are streaming.
Yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts on streaming versus like having physical product?
Well, personally, I mean, I would much rather have the physical product. See, I listen to all my music on my computer. So when I get a CD, I immediately rip it to the computer and then I put the CD away because it's just easier for me to just click on something, boom, and listen to it instead of having to, go over to a CD rack and pull one out and pop it in and everything. But I do take CDs with me, like if I'm driving somewhere, I'll pick one out and put it in a CD player in the car. But yeah, physical product, man. Because streaming is nice and all that because you can listen to the music immediately right then and there, like Spotify and on YouTube and stuff like that. But as far as streaming, the bands don't make squat,
right?
And people forget that it takes a lot of money for these bands to create the music. I mean,
yes, sir.
All the way down to their instruments, which everybody should know the instruments are not cheap. And so some of these bands, they pay for the software, the expensive software, and they record at home. And even though they do that, they can put out a great product. But some bands, they fork out thousands of dollars, and they will actually go to an actual studio and hire a producer, and they have to recoup those costs somehow, and streaming does not do it. And that's why when these bands go out and do shows, people need to support the bands, not just by showing up at the shows, but buy their merch.
Amen.
Buy their t-shirts, buy their stickers, their vinyl albums, CDs, whatever they have. Support them by purchasing the merchandise because that costs money too, and they got to be able to recoup that. So that's my take on it. I mean, I'm not anti-streaming at all, but I just would really wish that people would realize that bands don't make anything from it.
Yeah,
they make a very small fraction of a penny, which is absolutely ridiculous. The band, it's a ripoff for the bands. It really is. It's ripping them off.
And contrary to our spouse's beliefs or whatever, you can never have too many metal shirts. So just buy one at every show.
Amen.
Mine just made me get rid of a whole bunch because, dude,
No.
I had so many. I had to use two closets, one closet for my regular clothes and the other one I had all my band shirts.
I have that right now.
That's
So
coming for me soon. I just got them in
and
bins right now.
yeah,
she made me get rid of some, and I said, you do know that I'm gonna get a lot more, right?
right. Awesome. So you run a ministry and you're a
Mhm.
musician, and so you kind of got a good grasp of everything as far as that goes. So what are the advantages and pitfalls that you have seen of having a ministry versus being in the music industry?
Wow. Uh Interest. I could narrow it all down into just one word: interest. Getting people interested in what you're doing, getting people to get on board with what you're doing and support you and back you on that and have your back and whatnot. Um, that's the best way that I could put it, honestly. Some people do, some people don't. I see, there's some bands that have been around for a long time, and people will be on them like, you know flies on what, because it's like, and no matter what they put out, I mean, if they put out something that's just an album of junk, people are still, oh my gosh, it's so and so,
You see it
Yep.
every day.
yeah, yeah,
Every day.
yeah,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, yep. And uh but it's like, that's why the staple, of my radio show has always been, yeah, I could sit there and play Striper all day long. Well, Striper doesn't need my help, man.
Mm,
Everybody knows who Striper is, but
sure.
they may not know this band, or that band. So I focus on the lesser known, independent indie bands.
Yeah.
So I focus on them and getting their music out there, getting these guys exposure, turning people onto these bands, and it's amazing and I found, man, honestly, that a lot of these indie bands, they
Mhm.
are flipping amazing.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, they got some. I mean, there's some of these bands, I'd put them up there with the big dogs. I really would.
And that's awesome. That really lines up with what we do with the Christian metal group. We like to support the bands that aren't signed or are newer and things like that. I mean, obviously we support all the bands. If somebody asks for a recommendation, they're always going to get Striper, Demon Hunter, and Skillet. So
Yep.
we do our best to help support those other bands. So that's awesome. I'm glad you do that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's weird that, it just like, it started out that way. And yeah, of all the interviews that I've ever done, I've only interviewed like two big name people. And the fall of 2015, I think it was right around the time that Striper's album Fallen came out.
Mhm.
I got to interview Michael Sweet, and that was over the phone. And
Nice.
then about a month later, I think it was, I interviewed Marcos Curiel, the guitarist for
Yeah.
POD.
POD,
Yeah,
yeah.
yep. And that was it. Everybody else I interviewed was from, indie bands. Um, but it's cool, and I like going to festivals and festivals. It's kind of hard to interview bands because they're busy. Everybody wants to talk to them and hang out with them, and you got all the background noise and stuff like that. um Plus I found that while I'm sitting there doing an interview, I'm missing whoever's up on stage. I'm
Right.
missing their sets. So I try to orchestrate it to where I can interview a band either right before or after, a festival, after everybody's done, kind of thing.
Nice.
All right. So I think it's your turn, actually.
So the metal community still seems like a taboo mission field. I don't know if you've kind of experienced that to most churches, anyways. So why is that, and what can we do about it?
I think it's because, and I did experience the whole you know okay, well, this church I was going to back in like around 2012, I was in a Christian thrash metal band, and so I just wanted to, get people interested in us and help promote the band. So I went to the church's bookstore because they did sell some, Christian rock CDs. Like they had Red in there, and I forget who else, but stuff like that, Red, Skillet, and I was like,
I'm sure Skillet
yeah,
was there.
Jars of
oh
Clay.
yeah,
No,
yeah, Jars of Clay, yeah.
We're
Michael W.
getting heavy
Smith,
now.
yeah. So I went in and I asked a person because they had like a little bulletin board in the back of the bookstore, and I was like, okay, well, and I printed out a thing, and it had information about the band, our website address, email address, and whatnot, links where people could hear the music, all that kind of stuff. And so instead of just going in and pinning it up, I wanted to do the right thing. So I went up to the counter and I asked the manager there if I could put it up. And they said, "Oh," and they looked at it and they're like, "Oh, well, I don't know. You need to ask the pastor." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Is the pastor here?" They're like, "Well, you could go over to his office, because it was all there at the church." So I went over to the office and the pastor wasn't there, but I left the paper with all the info. I left it there with the secretary, and she's like, the pastor will get back in touch with you. I'm like, okay, cool. So I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks later, I get an email from the pastor, and he's like, well, it's pretty obvious that you guys love the Lord and you're all about the Lord, but we can't let you post it here at the church because it's a style, it's a musical style thing, is what he said. And I'm sitting there thinking, are you kidding me? Because it's metal. I mean, I bet if we were a CCM band, you would have been like, oh yeah, please, please, hey, can your band play here too? I mean, come on. But rock music is, and metal, there's still those people with like that old fashioned, I call it old fashioned, a sense of, rock music is of the devil, no matter what the lyrics are. And I've tried to explain to some of these people, music is music. Okay. What makes a song a certain way is the lyrical content.
Absolutely.
That's what makes the song, like,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, what if somebody is totally against country music because it talks about drinking beer and chasing women and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, well, what if you took a country song and you put like all lyrics in there about worshiping the Lord and getting on your knees
Right.
and asking for forgiveness? Oh, well, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Of course you wouldn't. So, it's like, who cares if it's loud and aggressive, metal music? Because you know what? Not everybody listens to Caleb, okay? So you're not gonna reach everybody with that kind of music. So, and I'm a firm believer that if you're gonna reach the lost, then you gotta get down to their level, That's like these people who are like, oh my gosh, you're a Christian band and you guys play in bars. Darn right we do.
That's right.
Because that's where the lost is. Did Jesus sit around and wait for the lost to come to him? No, he went to the lost, man.
Amen.
He went to the lost to seek them out. And so I'm a firm believer in that. And but yeah, and it's unfortunate that it happens. I would just tell these people, like I just said, like anybody watching this, if you're in a band and you get some backlash, just tell these people, does the style of music really matter? It's the message that matters.
Amen.
Seriously, because you might have a metalhead out there who's going through some really bad stuff, and they may not know that they need Jesus. And a friend might take them to this show and they see a band up there rocking out for the Lord and preaching from the stage. And then they're like, oh my gosh, and then come up and that's the other thing these people don't know is after these bands get off stage, there's people that go up to these band members and have them pray with them to receive Christ. They don't see that. And again, yeah, the style of music doesn't matter. It's the message.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir. All right. Well, cool. I love that answer, by the way. I mean, it just reminds me of course, what I do on a regular basis too. And it's a beautiful thing, man. We we just need more, man. We need
Oh
more.
yeah,
Hopefully, one of these
absolutely.
days, everyone, one of these days, like
We need
church,
to we
get
need to
it,
all
man.
be bold with our faith, man.
Yeah,
We all need to be bold with our faith. Don't hold back. Don't be
yeah,
afraid, man. Go up to people, talk to
yeah,
them.
absolutely. And I think the churches a lot of times they're afraid, man.
Yeah,
It's crazy that churches a lot of times get comfortable just ministering to their members.
exactly.
It's one of the most
And
fortunate things to
yeah,
me.
and see, and I've even been to churches where I ended up like I stopped going because I'd look around. I'm one of those people. I'm a watcher. I'm
Yeah.
observant, and I watch everything and everybody around me. It's just habit. And I saw people treating church like it was a social club,
Hmm.
a place to hang out. And you got these little cliques of people. And there was the one clique. I went over and tried to say hi and just strike up a conversation with them. Man, I might as well have been a ghost. It was like I wasn't even there. And I'm like,
Wow.
I turned around and of course in my head I'm thinking, man, them some stuck up people,
Mhm.
That's what they were like, but it's sad. People should be able to come to church, and who cares what you look like? Who cares what your background is or your past? Man, none of that matters.
That's right.
And this church I went to, we had bikers that came.
Mm.
Bikers came to church, and they had a smoking area right outside in front that was not too far from the door. People were having an issue with that. You're letting people smoke outside, you know? And so the pastor told these people, and I like his answer. He said, well, why don't we just put a sign above the door that says no sinners allowed?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
is that what you people want?
Mhm.
But
That's
yeah.
crazy, man. So I don't know if this question actually like directly correlates, but there's a big discussion that I've been seeing in churches, you know, just talking about church gatekeeping, but ministry versus industry, you know, and what are the advantages and pitfalls actually of ministry and industry? What I mean by industry is making music for money. And then ministry being, like some bands, for example, they'll say, "Oh, we're a ministry band," and that's all we do it for.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, the way I see it, uh, and I've seen this where, and like you said, I've seen bands, oh, we're a ministry band. We should do this. We do this as a ministry. Excuse me. And because some bands do that, I have seen bands get burned by promoters
yeah,
because people need to realize, okay, yeah, they're doing this as a ministry, but that doesn't mean that these people should be forced to do everything for free.
amen.
They shouldn't be stepped on like they're a doormat either. Because some of these bands, they will drive 10 hours to do a show. Well, how about giving them an offering of money for gas? Give them some food, feed them. You got to know these guys probably hungry. Maybe help them out with a place to stay while they're there.
Yeah.
Or maybe throw them some money for performing, that kind of thing. But I've had that kind of thrown at me before, where people are like, well, you're a Christian, in so many words. It's kind of like, you're a Christian, you should do this for free. It's like, oh, show me where it says that in the Bible, man, because I don't remember reading that. A man is worth his wages, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so um but yeah, as far as industry, it's like, okay, well, if you're doing it for money, then you're doing it for money. It's no problem. But and some people, some Christians have an issue with that too. I've seen people have issue with that, like, oh, they're a Christian band and all these guys care about is money and blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, they're just regular people. You take away the instruments and the glitz and glamour and all that, and they're regular people just like you and me. They got bills to pay, they got families to feed, so yeah, they need to make money for all of that.
mhm,
And people need to realize that too, and just stop being whiners.
Right, exactly.
You know?
I mean, especially a lot of these people do it full time. I mean, that's
Yeah.
their I mean, right, you got to feed your family. You're not I mean, it is ministry,
Mhm.
but yeah, you got to make a living to do that. You know, gas is not free. They don't accept prayer sandwiches at the store. You got to have something to, to get that. So I agree with all that. So these next few questions are going to be kind of rapid fire,
Okay.
just go through them real quick. So what is the connection between the Covenant Metal Show, the Metal Onslaught, Gospel Rockin' Radio, and Heaven's Metal Radio? It's all on your site.
I work with all of them. That's a
Okay.
connection.
Y'all like
No,
support each other?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're all about spreading the gospel through hard and heavy music, man.
Yeah.
And promoting the bands. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
I love it. All right, cool. So let's talk about your Patreon.
Yeah, I just started that up in case anybody wanted to do that, because like I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. I'm one of those people, man. I go down rabbit holes, and
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm watching like, epic fails of 2022, or something like that. But no, and I see, the content creators on there, you can support us on Patreon. And I went and checked out what Patreon was, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, and I put it out there again, like I was talking earlier about, if somebody ever wanted to donate, I don't expect it, I don't push it, but it's like same thing with Patreon. It's like I don't expect it, I'm not pushing it on anybody, but
right.
if the if you're led and the Lord puts it on your heart, anything helps. Seriously.
Awesome.
So
yeah, that's good, man. There's no way to support you in the ministry for sure. So I was listening to the radio earlier today, and I heard one of my favorite bands, which is Witch Hazel, and I was excited to hear that come on there. So, do you know what are a few bands that are kind of like your listeners' favorites? I mean,
I would say Weapons of God.
Okay.
Fear Not, definitely.
Yeah.
Those guys are just amazing. And 3 Days Under, I'd say those are the three big ones currently. Yeah.
I just recently kind of discovered 3 Days Under. Yeah.
Oh man. Wow.
Yeah.
I'll listen to them tonight. How about that?
There you go. Awesome.
Have you heard the new one, Bring Out Your Dead?
No,
I heard the song. Yeah, I did.
Oh man, excellent tune.
What's funny is I'm about to pull it up on Apple Music. We was talking about streaming earlier.
You sure that's not a grave robber song?
Oh, Lord.
I said, are you sure that's not a grave robber song? Bring Out Your Dead?
No.
YouTube it is. Let's see. 3 days. So 3 days under.
Yep.
Cool. All right.
You wanted to, well, my two favorite songs, Bring Out Your Dead, and they have another one called Bleeding Through. Both of those are, Bleeding Through is a beautiful song. Beautiful.
Cool. Yeah, so
that one kind of talks about how sometimes we get in the way of we get in the way of our own walk with the Lord sometimes. So
absolutely.
What that one's kind of about. Yeah.
That's a really good thing for sure. Yeah, I pulled them up on YouTube, and I will be checking them out as soon as this interview is over. So y'all heard it first. Right awesome. Here. So speaking of your show, let's talk about the various ways to listen to your show.
So Fridays, I used to go live, but I was having issues with my software, so I'm going back to pre-recorded shows until I can get that all worked out. Fridays at because it's time change, and I'm in Arizona and we don't change our time, so I have to kind of figure it out. Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, on the GRR, GRR, gospelrockinradio.com.
Love it.
Nice.
Man, it took a long time to work that one. I started out just messing around trying to do you remember back in the day the movie trailer announcer guys, that voice, this summer, explosions and whatnot. But Fridays 3 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern on the GRR, gospelrockinradio.com. Just go to gospelrockinradio.com And at the top on the website, you'll see listen now. You click on that and it takes you straight over to the Live 365 page where you can tune in. So you can do it on your laptop, or probably the best way to do it is you go to Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and get the Live 365 app. It's totally free. And just punch in, gospel rock and radio, boom. And what's cool is the app automatically saves what stations you've been to. So the next time you go in, you just tap on it, boom, you're there.
That's nice.
And then twice on Saturday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern on Heaven's Metal Streaming Radio.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on Live 365. It's on Get Me Radio, and it's also on My Tuner. I don't know the exact links, man. These things are like a mile long. These links are, I swear. And then finally, also on Saturdays, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern on on the Metal Onslaught online radio. Sorry about that. It gets confusing, man.
That's no problem. We'll put the link. We'll put the links in the
awesome.
the video as well. So, how can bands that want to be on your show contact you?
Yeah, covenantmetalshow@gmail.com. Send me your tunes, any audio format, preferably MP3. But I can take anything and convert it, so that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. So cool. So
and like us on Facebook.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes. Covenant Metal on Covenant Metal Show on Facebook. Easy to find. Just give us a like and subscribe. We're also on YouTube. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel too. So
very nice.
Cool. So what's the criteria that you use to determine whether a song will be played on your show?
If it doesn't suck. No, I'm just kidding.
There we go. That's the best one. That's the best right there.
I love it.
You'd be surprised. Way back in the beginning, I had a band one time sent me something. It sounded like they recorded it in somebody's garage. And I'm like, well, it sounds like a cool song, but if you guys can just get me better quality audio, then I'll play it. Never heard from him again.
Was it black metal? No, I'm just
no, oh gosh. I can't stand. That's like cats fighting, man. Yeah. That's one style of metal I do not like. I try getting into it, and to each their own, man, but it's not for me.
Come on, Impending Doom.
Yeah, I like the better produced black metal stuff, but like Ancestor stuff, like is top tier for sure.
No, I like melodic death metal, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I'm definitely a death metal guy, like all the way.
Right on.
Yeah, super death metal guy. Which is hilarious, but yeah, I love it, man. All right.
Do you go through and read the lyrics, or how? I mean,
well, I get to know the band. I check out their Facebook pages, their websites, and if I have any questions at all, I just either hit them up on Facebook or I email them.
Nice.
And yes, I've asked for lyrics before, lyrical content. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I know you do the radio show, and you were talking about doing interviews. Who are like your top 2 favorite interviews that you've done with bands or members of bands?
One of my favorites is one that I did probably a month ago now. I interviewed Les Carlson.
Nice.
And that
I saw that. Yeah,
it was a really, really good interview. And then another one, I guess, that kind of stands out for me. Oh gosh. I'm drawing Weapons of God.
Okay.
I've interviewed them a couple of times. But yeah, probably one of my most recent favorite ones has to be the one I did with Les Carlson.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I know you shout out a few of the favorite bands of listeners, but as far as you, favorite new bands?
Those 3.
Okay.
I wouldn't say new, but my go-tos whenever I'm just listening for myself. Theocracy, Narnia, definitely Deliverance. Deliverance is my all-time favorite band.
Okay.
And Barren Cross. Gotta have me some Barren Cross.
All right, cool. Wow, what's your favorite Deliverance album?
Weapons.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, here's
Yeah.
something interesting. My introduction to Deliverance is What a Joke, and for that reason, that's my favorite Deliverance album.
Right
Oh,
on.
really?
It's not a lot of people's favorite, but I love that
Isn't it
album.
weird how your favorite is always like the first song you heard from a band or the first album you heard? It's
Yeah.
always going to be your favorite.
And
Yeah.
that's not a popular opinion. And I like Tourniquet's Crawl to China. We
Mhm.
played one of the songs off that album was in my wedding, so I mean I can't hate
Oh
Oh
that.
yeah.
wow.
There we
Wow.
go. Wow.
See,
That was
for
good.
for me, for Tourniquet, it's Vanishing Lessons.
Uh,
That's the
okay.
album I like the best. Yeah.
And their production on that joint and the
Oh yeah.
musicianship on that joint. I love all the albums. I would say
Yeah.
it's a tie between Pathogenic and Microscopic for me.
Oh yeah.
Both of those two albums are great.
Yeah.
Like, just
Oh yeah.
yeah, man. That's very interesting. But yeah, that Deliverance, man. Yeah. There was a compilation called Art for the Ears. Anybody remember that compilation?
No, I don't think.
I think I have a tape somewhere around here. I have to pull that out.
If I saw the cover, I might recognize it.
Yes, it was a tape of
Well,
that.
if it was on tape, then I definitely don't have it because that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. But yeah,
I got all these right here cassettes. I've got quite a few.
You might have it in there, but yeah.
That right there, that's actually the Heaven's Metal cassette box set right there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Well,
See,
hey,
like I tell people, I came to the game late, man, so I got a lot of catching up to do.
hey, that's all right, man. Hey, we're glad you're here. So, hey, real quick, just to wrap it up, man, I appreciate your time and everything. What can we do as Christian Metal Group in the metal community? What can we do to support your ministry?
Oh boy. You know what? First and foremost, honestly, just pray.
Yeah.
Pray for the Lord's will to be done and for it to grow. And just I would ask everybody, honestly, pray not just for my show, man. Pray for Christian Metal Group. Pray for all these other Christian metal ministries out there. It doesn't even have to be metal. Pray for anybody who's doing work for the Lord. Just pray for them, support them, share their posts on Facebook, go to the band shows, support them, like I was saying, buy their merch, all that good stuff, man. Sincerely.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I love it.
That's great, man. Well, this has been awesome, and we look forward to supporting your ministry and listening to your show. And I hope you gain some new listeners from this, man. So
that'll be great.
Anything else, Jay?
That's it. So, how many bands have you been involved in as far as
good question.
Just personally, and like, are you doing any music now? You have anything new coming out for 2022 or 2023?
I've only ever been in like one Christian metal band before. In 2012, I was in a band called Rizin, Rizin. We released one horribly produced studio album. For some reason, people liked it. People thought it was doom metal. It was supposed to be thrash metal, but whatever, that's how bad it was. To this day, I still can't even listen to it. One of the songs you can't even, one of the songs you can't even hear my vocals.
I'm going to request that for the show.
Yeah, let's go. We need it immediately.
Most recently, it's just me and a buddy of mine who lives in Ohio. We put out a 5-song EP. Okay. Our project is called Silence the Burden, and the EP is called Vitality. Nice. And it's when we started it, I had kind of like a Christian altar bridge in mind.
Okay.
Something like that. But it's pretty heavy, and we have a single out called Wretched Man, and it's also a music video for it on YouTube.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Really cool. Well, cool. I guess that wraps it up, honestly.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Well, y'all have a great day. We'll talk to you later.
God bless.
Right. God bless, guys.
Yeah.